Nice to meet everyone. First of all, I would like to thank you so much for the opportunity to meet with all of you today. Thank you in particular invitation from Hong Kong Library, as well as Joseph, which is my classmate from back Cantel, like that number of decades years ago. And so the question is that why am I here? So first of all, I'm actually an alum from Hong Kong U, so I study architecture here. So there's definitely some relevance. And then I went to study MBA in Seattle some time ago. And today, and after that, I have become, I began to start this startup in 2019, which is the very first cell cultivation meat technology company of China. We are based in Hong Kong, and our laboratory is in Hong Kong Science Park. And we have already done some prototype of our products, and we're going to do the pilot scale up in the next year. And so why am I here? I think today I'm going to share as a bit of case study how the idea of design thinking can be applied on innovation, business, and different fields, more like a real life example. I think this is why I am invited here today. So we know that we are equipped with a lot of skills, technical skills, writing and calculation, math, etc. And then using them, we can actually solve a lot of problems. And then when we see repeated problems coming up, we see the pattern, and then we come up with a strategy thinking how we can cater for that more efficiently. And then, of course, we talk about how are we going to create something new. And along this we see that there are actually very different skill sets. So some of them are actually really basic. Some of them actually quite passive. For example, problem solving, problem appear, and then we try to solve them. Proactive is meaning that we see multiple situations coming up too many times. I just take care of them better. So I more proactively manage those situations. And of course, how do we actually do one more step beyond that? How can we lead in that space or in that industry? It is something more beyond strategic thinking or kind of the early steps. So giving a parallel, it is really similar to existence. We used to hunt and gather fruit, and then we know that it is too time consuming and we cannot be having a stable supply. We start thinking about survival and managing some problem like raising animals. And then when we have more people, we see that, well, we need to improve the efficiency, and then we build animal farms, etc. And then, so how about the future? We know that now the natural resources is actually getting very scarce, and a lot of problems with the traditional animal agriculture, like greenhouse gas, etc. And so the thing is that how we can apply design thinking or innovation in this perspective. The challenge is, what we're here is that we know that it is a challenge, right? If it already in our academic or everyone know how to do it, or we know how to describe the process so everyone can pick it up, we probably won't be here. That's the purpose of today's discussion, right? So the thing is that a lot of these other skill sets based on the past. So it's similar to when you talk to your financial advisor, they will tell you that, okay, I can tell you in the past, performance of this equity or this stock is such and such. However, they will never guarantee that in the future it will give you the same return, 4%, 5% whatsoever. It's because we are so good at looking at the past in solving some problem. However, when looking in the future, we have a lot of uncertainty. So we can say that we don't have crystal ball, but then we actually need a lot of those solutions to cater for the future. It's more like we need a future-proof solution for many different aspects of our lives. So this is why this is difficult and why this is challenging. To a certain extent, we don't know. Our brain is so good at tracing pattern in the past, but not in the future. So the study of is a case study about future of our food. And we know that the way that we are using animal to convert natural resources to meat, the conversion rate of the efficiency is very low. 100 units of the energy will end up in our meat, about 10%. Some of them are actually lower. They won't get like about 15 or 20%. And so that's why we're actually using tons of water and tons of this food that we produce, not feeding people, but just feeding animal and cleaning up the animal farms, etc. So it is not sustainable. And of course, there are a lot of side products, greenhouse gas, waste, sewage. And the other thing is that animals do live in a very crowded and potentially very polluted environment. So that's why it's also harming ourselves at the end. We find microplastic in the fish now, as in the previous presentation, very relevant. And of course, we have antibiotics, superbugs, etc. So how do we see the same situation? How do we future-proof our our well-being or even survival. And then there are questions about how about we skip meat altogether? Of course, that's one option. Actually, I became vegan, but then I find that it's not the only option. I find that it's difficult to really ask people to skip meat altogether. So then the question is, how about if we skip the middleman, like the animal, and directly put the energy or the food to the cell, and then we can yield the protein or the product we want. And if we have people study biology or biochemistry here, we know that this is actually very feasible, just that we have not applied that to the food application or the meat production yet. So, and also without them, we can actually skip a lot of this problem. No more drastic amount of waste. We don't have our fish exposed to polluted like environment, heavy metal, etc., or microplastic. So the lower bottom segment here is actually, we don't have the product in the market yet because there are a lot of biotech R&D and some scale up, but indeed it is actually following, as we know now, there are a lot of plant-based product in the market in Hong Kong and overseas. And so this is the growing trend. And for this segment, it will be in a couple of years' time. The benefit of that is that the same cell happen in the product that we produce. So nutritional wise, it will be equivalent to a real meat. And AD currently projected that in the future, we're actually imagining a world with multiple sources of meat or meat substitute products. And what we do actually taking cells from animal, in this case fish, and then we grow them in a very clean control equipment. It's called either incubator, fermenter, or bioreactor. And then in a shorter time, we will get the food we want. And so, although it sounds very scary, but actually it's not. We have been using that to produce yogurt and beer. So now we can imagine that using for making meat. And so imagine there's actually multiple benefits. Definitely better for the animal, better for the worker. It will be automated. We have a very, very stable supply, definitely clean, and ensure that it's not exposed to any pollutants. And for fish, we particularly like this because we know that the number of fish in the ocean is reducing, and aquaculture probably not sufficient to cater for the growing demand. And so because of that, we're very happy we're talking about this goal, and we actually check a few boxes where one of the clean tech company in APAC that been given that recognition. And these are some of the product we have done. And in the future, it will be incorporated in the food that we eat, like fish cake. Possibly at one point will be basically oblivious. We don't know that it is from different source. Maybe the label will tell them this is actually using this technology, because you look for that label by that time, because you know that it probably is cleaner and pollutant free. So what happened in the innovation, and how does it happen? So I think coming from an architecture design background, I think there's certain differentiation. So we have arts, we have engineering, we have design and innovation. So what are the difference? If you have been doing like architectural design now in the applying similar skill set to the business innovation, I think a lot of the thing down into several factors. For pure art, this is very subjective and organic. For engineering and design, to a certain extent, it's very functional, rational, and also very systematic. So we can list out all of the design parameters, and then we can come up with a solution. We call that a scheme to address the requirement. And then there are definitely for engineering and design, the multiple stakeholder. Well, for arts, they're actually just the painter and the audience and no one else. And also for application, there are a lot of different scenarios. For example, fashion design, we need to cater for, okay, if it looks good in front, does it look good at the back? How do I produce that using the fabric with a string? How does it look like? Something different application scenarios. And so I think the most biggest challenge is that we cannot capture this design process, is that it is organic. We cannot pin down on it. It is too multi scenarios that we cannot predict. And how about the future? As we said, that human being is not particularly good at predicting the future. So I think this is actually the difference between innovation or part of design, as well versus more systematic and rational way of doing engineering. And so in the application and the business, just like I see some slides, there are actually, there are so many factors on board. It's just like doing architectural project. We need to consider the the land size, whether it's next to the hill, and then what about the MTR station, the sun angle, etc. Product mix, are we selling the best like micro unit, studio size, 100 square feet, or is the people actually looking for a bigger apartment, something like that? So there's so many ideas, so many factors we need to consider. And I think maybe sharing from the perspective of a person went through architectural design, one thing I find very useful is really design studio process, because we're actually given a real life scenario, and then we have to do our own analysis. So the more we can gather these different factors, the better. Some of them actually may be contradicting, some of them are helping up with each other. And then the design is actually happening like this. It is a very schematic way to show that, okay, how do I come up with a design that cater for all of this requirement? It could be like this in the green line. It could be some shape like this. The building maybe looking like this, or a business proposal strategy looking like this. However, the same problems, the same questions, my classmate may be drawing up something like this, which is the red color, and then they look quite different. And then so it is how the interest part of the design thinking, the process, and how that holistically happens. So we see a lot of them. We cannot we cannot see which one is the result of which one. But then when you think of them holistically, when you take a walk in the park and when you just relax, maybe you come up with a solution that you can answer all of this. And then in the design process, sometimes we will come up with a situation that we answer 10 of the problem, and it catered for the 10 of the questions so well, but then we have left out 2 or 3, and then the problem will come back later on and say, hey, architect, you haven't considered the ventilation system, and you have a big bulky duct on the outside of the building. So what happened? And of course, you don't want those ugly thing to be not incorporated in the design. Then you have to go back to your drawing board and think for everyone, so that you can cater for everyone's needs and in a very pretty nice way. So it is the design process that usually happen in the mind of architect or designer. And it's also happening in this case in our business design, the strategy. We need to take care of all of this problem like production cost, environment, taste, how do people think about it, what is the first best product we can launch, etc. And so this is just to illustrate that we have a lot of challenges for commercializing this technology. One of the things that you may hear is very expensive to make. And then also it actually started from the West. We now have 50 companies around the world working on similar technology. The first one actually from the States and in Europe. But when we apply that to China and Asia, the problem is, okay, we don't even eat the same kind of food. The food we like to eat, actually, we see the shape of the chicken, the fish, etc., right? So while as this technology, we start with the cell, we cannot make the chicken, we cannot make it swim. So it's a big challenge. So then we look at, okay, maybe in Asia, we do eat something very weird that is actually can, we said that one stone, 2 birds, we can kill the problem, like multi-problem with that. So our initial product idea, the first pilot product idea is that how about we find something that we can hide the shape of the animal, or traditionally we don't see that shape of the animal in a final food product, and then it's also quite expensive. So after a lot of brainstorming, we actually think that, okay, fish maw. I don't know whether all of the audience is here online and know about this. It's actually the swim blade of fish. It's actually selling expensive, so much more expensive than conventional meat. So, and then we don't use to see the shape of the fish in this dish. So it becomes our target pilot product idea. And then so the point to take is that usually challenges are opportunities. And so do not shy away from the weaknesses and the biggest challenge. Actually, the biggest challenge gives you the best opportunity. The same for designing a project. When you have a very big problem, it will actually end up to be the feature of your design project, and people will like that. So, so before I close, I would say that for the future, there's a lot of question marks. So although in the previous slide, I tried to connect all the dots, but actually to become better, or even future-proof further the business strategy or the model, actually, it is actually good to start thinking about other the bubbles and different factors that is not even building, is not on your sketchbook or whatever. So this is Carrie, and thank you so much for the opportunity today, and enjoy sharing with you. Thank you very much.